Hello everyone, witajcie, and welcome to the final and to the review of Symphony of War Nephilim Saga. Told you I would do it, but, well, real life stuff kinda, well, moved it in time, because first I needed to find a new flat, then when I moved, I didn't have the internet for about a week or maybe more, and this week now I worked a heck of a lot of overtime, so yeah, it's finally here. Also, this is my second increment, I would like to call it, of the review idea, so this video will differ some from the previous review, in that this will be a bit more edited. I will do some post-editing, I will add visual cues between sections, I will show you the sections, and yeah, I think it will flow a little bit better. I also have yet another idea, and that will be for increment 3 of a review. I don't know if that will be... I think that will be for the Berserk series I'm doing now. In that I will try do even more post thing, like maybe even record myself in post, so then I can better manipulate the audio levels of my own voice. And maybe it would be better for you to hear, and I could present you the music and the sound effects a bit better and clearer, which I can't do now because I'm recording it live, kinda, at the same time. So, not kinda, at the same time, live. So, the music needs to be a bit lower so that you can hear my voice correctly. So yeah, with that out of the way, I will enter the first part of the review, which is... Well, we had the intro, so now there will be a few important points. As I did in the previous one, I have five points for you to listen before I get into the review. The first one is that I would like to remind everyone that, as with all reviews, this one is also a subjective one. I try to not project my own how do you say, preferences when I'm doing a review, but, you know, every type of review is a bit subjective, so mine is probably also going to be, because I'm giving my point of view based on my own experiences with games and what genres I like and don't like, so that, I think that has a little influence on the final score, on my final score, and I think it should. I think, well, we all have different preferences, so yeah. So yours may vary, and I think it's great. I think it's great, and I think it's lovely to have different views on the same subject, and if you want to share with us your thoughts on this game in the comments, please, I would welcome it. I would really welcome it. So that's the first point. The second point is... all games that I play on this channel, this one included, are games that I bought with my own money and, well, also spend my own free time on them. So my own money and my own free time. That means that no one pays me for this review, no one pays me for saying good things, and no one prevents me from saying bad things about the games that I play and review. So I get to say what I think without any outside influence, and all that you hear is all me. Nothing is being made specifically to be said. Yeah, no one's buying anything here. Okay, so like I said, this is the second increment, as I would like to say, and the approach will be a bit different, like I presented to you at the start, at the intro. So if you like something better in this one, or maybe worse, please leave a comment about it, and I'll take that into consideration and do some more changes for the third increment, or maybe the fourth, and we'll see. We're still getting better at it, so yeah. Okay, and the fourth point, yeah. Even though this review is after a full Let's Play series, completed Let's Play series from start to end, although without the DLC, because it came out when I was halfway through, or maybe a bit more. So yeah, even though it's after the full series, I will try to avoid spoilers as much as I can. Because some viewers, and I know that from the comments, and I thank you for it, said to me that they only watched a couple just to get a feeling about what the game is like, how it looks, and if they're interested in it. And I think that's great, and that's why I'll try my best to avoid some spoilers. The first review that I didn't have any spoilers, but this one, I would like to say, will have a very minor one. And I need to address that because it adds one additional mechanic to the game and adds one additional thing, and not maybe adds, but kinda changes a bit the focus of the story, and that actually has a impact on my final mark. So I think I know how to do this without spoiling anything. I will still mark it as a minor spoiler, and in the timeline on the video I will mark it as a minor spoiler section, as well as I will give you a 1 or 2 seconds before the spoiler section of silence and 1 or 2 seconds after the spoiler of silence, so that you may position the player at the video in a way that will let you either skip or be ready for the spoilers, so you would be more comfortable with maneuvering through the video. So I'll mark that on the timeline, and I'll mark that in the description below the video. Also, I will not say anything about any character involved in the spoiler, when it's happening, about what it is, and who's in that spoiler event. So I will only say, I will describe it as the event, and I will try to diverge as small information as is possible. And I think I know a way to do that. So yeah, that would be the 4th point. And the 5th point is that this video will be divided into sections, like I said. I will try to visually show the sections on the screen this time. And the sections that we will be discussing in this review will be general overview, the story, gameplay part, and gameplay part I will divide into 2 additional subparts: management part and battle part, because I feel that we need to discuss these parts separately. Yeah. Then I'll talk about the audio, video, and Misc stuff, like what other media sites and what other people think about this game, and then I will present you my final score. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it, shall we? So, general overview. So, Symphony of War is a tactical fantasy RPG with squad management and combat, which takes inspirations from the likes of Fire Emblem, for example, because we can take control of squads, which we have an ability to build and tailor to our liking in a couple of ways. We have a solid choice from many classes here, and we are able to supplement those classes with equipment. Unlike Fire Emblem, those are not weapons, those are artifacts here, which we will talk about in the later sections, and we also can teach the units traits. So yeah. And we also maneuver on a top-down look of a battle map, strategic battle map, so that's also a little similar to Fire Emblem games, or Tactic Ogre games, if you remember those. Symphony of War has us set out on an adventure, which will lead us through various places in the world of Tanra, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which will in turn involve us into events quite fundamental for both our heroes, the world of Tanra, and the people living there. Those familiar with the strategy RPG genre will quickly find similarities to, like I said, the Fire Emblem games and Tactic Ogre games, which I said earlier. The former more than the latter, as this is more of a turn-based game, and Tactic Ogre had some real-time strategy entries. I think March of the Black Queen, if I'm not mistaken games, was that sort of a game where on the tactical battle map everything moved in real time and it paused when you gave orders to armies. Yeah, also, like I said, we have army control on a tactical battle map. The things that remind me to the Tactic Ogre series are the order options, which you can give to a unit. And the aforementioned March of the Black Queen actually had also orders, which you can give, and I think it was in the battle phase, if I'm not mistaken. Someone correct me in the comments if I'm mistaken here. I think it was in the battle itself, and here, in Symphony of War, we gave those before the battle. So the order part is actually reminiscent of the March of the Black Queen. As for more Fire Emblem inspirations, I think that those are a little bit more pronounced here. Starting from, like I said, the tactical view, the battle system, the battle view is kinda similar, and ending on the whole unit and class system, although the squad system is different. And we'll talk about that later. The things that are also different is, like I said, you do not equip weapons, you equip artifacts, and you do not equip mages with spells, like in the Fire Emblem games. Let me just sort my notes out, because we're doing it old school with notes. So yeah, like I said, you do not change the weapons nor the spells. We use artifacts here, which are tied to not one unit but the whole squad in Symphony of War. And this also means that the good old known weapon triangle that is implemented in Fire Emblem is not present in that form here, although we do have some units, some skills that allow us to basically counter some specific units, but we'll talk about that later in the battle section. And yeah, so that means that instead of equipment we have classes and traits that promote the rock paper scissors game loop. So be sure to be mindful of that difference. Next part. Story. As for the story part, the world of Tanra is ravaged by conflicts. We had the long and bloody Viridian Succession War, and it left the Empire of Viridia scarred. Its people were subject to brutal hardships, and that changed under the reign of Empress Florina. The vicious cycle seemed to be broken until a rogue general abducted her from the capital, mastering his own army and raising a flag of rebellion. And this is where the game starts, as you, a young academy graduate, will command an expedition against the forces of the, general that rebelled. A conflict that will set off a chain of events that shake the very foundations of the world of Tanra. So as you can hear, it's sort of a, from my point of view, a zero to hero story type. As we begin as a normal academy graduate, we get to command a small squad to start and to quell a little rebellion. We were not expected to by ourselves conquer it whole, but things happen, stuff changed, and that was a start of an epic adventure. So yeah. We also get to know our main character here, hear his story, where he came from, get some more information on him, which in my opinion is a plus, because it makes this game more character-centered than games of these types, because those strategy games tend to have your own character as a sort of a commander type character that's rarely seen on the battlefield, and he just takes control of the units, which are kind of sometimes generic soldier types that just, take orders and do battle. The more generic soldier type approaches in some of the Fire Emblem not Fire Emblem, sorry, Tactic Ogre games, whereas Fire Emblem still has still is centered around the characters. And this one is also centered around the characters, just a bit more than not a bit more, very similar to Fire Emblem series. Which I think is a good thing, and that's a plus from me in this type of game. Although I'm also a fan of the generic soldier, because it gives a lot of flexibility when it comes to creating classes, as opposed to being a single character that has its own story set in stone. But that also depends on the game. Some games allow you to change those characters freely, while you're retaining their story. For example, Fell Seal, which is also a nice strategy game. So yeah. And before I continue, I would like to mark this section as the beginning of the minor spoiler section. I'll give you 1 or 2 seconds of silence to get ready. Yes, so welcome to the section. And from what I'd like to say is that this is the first of the really big cons about this game, because throughout the whole beginning of the game, it is presented to us that we use our tactical mind, our prowess to win skirmishes, win battles, and those are hard-fought battles. Those are not easy ones, and Devo, our main character, really strains to use his tactical mind and approach to win those fights for us. And I think that it's a nice feeling. It was a great feeling to know that your character isn't, ever knowing, doesn't know everything, doesn't anticipate every enemy move, and he has a magical mind capable of clairvoyance and always wins. No, it's not like that. It's not the case for Devoa. He really strains hard, and he does not always win everything. And I felt that it does really good for the story. But then the event happened. And because of the event, the narrative takes a turn. And instead of focusing on tactical mind and prowess in battle, we get the good old prophecies and higher powers trope. And I think that takes a lot out of the story. At least for me it does. Because I don't feel that same sense of accomplishment after a victorious battle. Because, in some way it could fit the prophecy. And we sometimes get narratives like that. So, yeah. For me personally, it should retain the tactical involvement, the whole being a better version of yourself, and pushing ourselves to our limits in the tactical genius. And yeah, it doesn't work for me. Doesn't work. It's for me, this point is one of the first big cons, really. I kind of understand in some way why this has been done, and it was kind of a way to up the stakes of the narrative, of the story, And I have a feeling where this came from, but to be honest, it doesn't do that for me. No, I think I will list that as a con, unfortunately. And this is the end of the first minor story spoiler. And the first minor spoiler. I'll give you 1 or 2 seconds of silence to get ready for the next segment. Next segment. Gameplay section. And first we'll tackle the management section. And allow me to now load a game. I will load one of my previous games. I think this one should be enough. Let me see if I have, yeah, I have the tokens. So we'll use some visual representations to help us here. Like I said, management phase. First we'll discuss about the management phase. The management part of the gameplay consists of taking care of your squads, organizing your squads, their inventory, composition of classes inside a squad, which you can see here. Have different squads available. We have squad operations. We can check the status of a unit. We can use some items on the unit. Like I said, change the composition of classes, change a unit class, and equip them with artifacts. It is quite a decent degree of customization that we get here, because you can use various types of items that can boost XP, boost class proficiency points, give you an merit upgrade, which increases your stats, give various items that increase your stats, which you can further develop your units with or help them achieve higher classes with. We can change the unit's affinities, which in turn has an effect on their skills. As you can see in the description here, various affinities have various effects on the unit skills. We can also teach unit traits from books. And as you can see, those also have quite a bit of impact on what the unit does and how they manage and how they perform in battle, not manage, sorry. So yeah, thanks to this degree of customization, you can come up with various builds, not only for one unit, but also for the whole squads. You can make some really dedicated squads, like a range squad that does bows, which enables them to attack from a distance, a range squad that's more focused on cannons or on guns, which also allows you to attack from range, cannons from long range, guns from close range. And, well, you can make supplementary squads, dedicated anti-magic squads like Diana here, fast-moving flying dragon squads, some DPS squads, some even tanks that use evasion, or tanks that use heavy shields, and fast cavalry units. There is really a high degree of customization here and various builds which you can further supplement not only with various classes but with traits, like I said, and also with a various degree of artifacts that further allow you to customize units. For example, we can give squads without the ability to ambush. We can give squads damage resistances, more damages on defense, which can further help squads that are built in a tanky manner. Squads that are built without magicians can take hit to the magic stats and really up their strength and HP. So as you can see, there is a high amount of customization and build options, which is a very, very big plus in my mind. I really like experimenting here, and not all my experiments were good classes, good compositions. Some were quite fun, and some, like for example, I can show you, Abigail's unit was more of a role-playing composition, as she has a... I'll show you it actually. She has a dragon affinity trait, which I used to incorporate dragons into her squad. And this is not an optimal squad, because the dragons take a lot of space, and their main benefit later on, in the later stages of their classes, the flying trait, is kinda wasted here, because they can't fly while other units are in the squad without the ability to fly. So this is more of an RP squad than it is an effective squad. But we had fun, and it kinda played around the fantasy of her being able to take care of dragons and more effectively train the dragons. So yeah, not all used in this playthrough were built based on effectiveness. Some were just built based on fun. Definitely there were squads built based on effectiveness, like my whole Cannoneer squad, which puts out so much damage. It's ridiculous, because they also have a... their whole main ability is to punch through armor. I think they have 75% armor penetration or something ridiculous like that, so... yeah, taking all that into consideration, I think the ability, the sheer ability to craft builds, theorize the builds first, then craft them, and see them in battle, in action, is a very big plus. Very, very big plus. Back to the main management menu. The other thing that this menu enables us is to check tips, information, and tutorial, both centered around the classes. Like you can see what classes upgrade to, what is needed in terms of stats or materials, and information about the units, their special abilities, which allows us to plan better, but we can also see some tips about the stats, affinities, various mechanical things the game does, and also about the world itself, some lore of the world. Here we can see that on this save slot, I don't even have all of this red. I did finish this all on my main slot. So yeah, there's quite a lot of useful information here, and I would suggest any new player to look those up, especially the reference guide about the stats and about the classes, that especially the lower parts that talk about special abilities and special abilities that are unlocked standing on a terrain type, for example. Yeah, I think that this is a good place to start for new players, as the game itself, unfortunately, does not tell you about those in battle. Not even in the first mission, where it is sort of a tutorial mission, it does not go in depth into those. So be sure to read that. Yeah, and unfortunately on higher difficulties, I think this is a must to supplement this, because the in-game tutorial is quite lacking when it comes to those basics, and it will not show you most of the stuff. Heck, I even think this reference guide will not show you most of the stuff in depth, and that's kind of a con for me, because even though it is here, and I don't know if it was here from the beginning, there isn't full information here about the mechanics the game takes into account. So be sure to keep that in mind. And yeah, unfortunately, if you really want to dive deep into the mechanics, I think some outside research will be needed. And that's it for the tutorials and info. Other things that we have are the supports menu, which act as a minor character development in a way of conversations and relationships. We also, which is a fun thing, have a degree of influence on the characters themselves through the conversations, because we can pick some outcomes that in turn have various outcomes on the whole which character likes which and who gets all lovey-dovey with who. So, and the game does take that into account in the end story, where it shows you the end story. So that's a nice nod. That's a really nice nod, I think. But also, and this is, I would like to say this is minor thing, because you are not being forced into the conversations. I think you can go without doing any of those, but if you do those, I have another con here, and it has to do with the conversations themselves. For some of you this may be minor, but if you like getting to know of your units, your characters, their motivations, their story, like me, this will be actually quite a substantial con, I think. And that is the way the dialogues are written. in the conversations themselves. And the conversation themselves, when you dive a bit deeper, not the surface conversation when you get to know each other, the ones where you get to show your feelings, etc. I'm afraid the dialogues are not very good, to say it in a nice way. Especially the late stages, the romantic parts, are written well, in a very cringy and corny way, I have to say, you know. I know that someone tried to, but this came out in a very, very tropey and typical style of one character going, "Oh, how I longed for your attention, oh, how I loved you from the very beginning," and everyone in the conversation is so sweet and so lovely, you just and say kind of really corny lines. You can't take it seriously, especially since you have a veteran, a big burly soldier guy that's well, the only thing that he can think of is to play childish games to get an attention of someone, and even that character thinks it's kinda off. Or, you know, you get a thief that thinks he is the most charming thing ever, and the woman that he tries to sway is constantly saying and repeating that he's annoying as heck, and she wants him to leave her alone. And he just goes on and on and on, and she just magically then says yes. For some reason, and if it worked like that in real life, I guess a lot of people don't have that problem. But unfortunately it doesn't. And I don't think it should work like here too, because it kind of takes away from that kind of organic character change in the way they go about themselves and others, you know? I don't think it's well done here. I think it's full of stereotypical tropes and another example of a trope. We have a stereotypical intellectual genius type of guy who cannot for the life of him speak to a woman, but he can conjure up a master plan defeating an enemy army, even if he's a big disadvantage. So yeah, another trope. I know that this is not a main mechanic, this is just a supplement, but the way this is written isn't very good, and I think it can put a lot of people off, and I don't think that's good. I think that this should have a little more attention. I don't know if maybe it was because of time constraints or, you know, resource constraints that this wasn't given enough attention, but I think it takes away from the whole character development, especially side characters, since they don't get enough attention in the main story. The main story kinda acknowledges them, that they are present, but here in the conversations we can see what they feel and what type of character they have, and how it changes, or how it shows when they need to take care of their, the battle partners. So I can understand that this may be a first time someone has written such a thing, or didn't have much time to kind of up the quality a bit, but unfortunately this is a con from me. Yeah. Okay, so that's the conversations done. Next thing we have on the menu here is the marketplace, the good old shop, in which we can trade items. I have purchased much of those, because most of those, excluding one very, very late chapter, basically the end of the game, you only have one-time purchases. Once you purchase something, it's gone from the shop menu. The shops have a quite nice degree of stock, ranging from common items to rare items, uncommon items, and epic rarity items. Money isn't much of a problem here, especially when we get to the arenas. I'll talk about those. Battles give us sufficient amount of money, and if you're tight on that, you can always sell some items that you don't use. So that's something to keep in mind. So be sure to check here every mission, because as well as items, we also have the recruit menu, in which we can recruit soldiers. The common ones here can be both indefinitely, as long as you have money. They change their rolled affinity, some traits change maybe, but all in all those common types of soldiers can be both multiple times. The uncommon, rare soldier types here are also one-time buy, so keep that in mind. Also, one of the key differences here is, if you see closely, those rare soldiers have the mercenary trait, which makes them cost additional capacity. And capacity is, talks about how much units can you fit into a single squad. And capacity changes while the the leader levels and his leadership stats increase. So keep that in mind. Whilst the common, lower class recruits don't have that trait. They don't have an additional cost. Also, yeah, another thing is those are in basic classes. And the rarer recruits, one-time purchases, are in advanced classes. So be sure to also keep that in mind. That's the shop. Oh, also one more thing, which I neglected most of my playthrough. If you have trouble with various resources that are needed for class change, the shop also has an exchange menu, which you can trade between resources. And I think this is a very good menu, and if you're having trouble and have a surplus of different resources, but you're lacking in one needed for your advanced classes, be sure to check out this menu. Because you can go a long time without getting some more mines or treasure chests in the whole story part, so yeah, this can be a lifesaver. Also, this is not the only way to acquire items. There is also a special type of shop which only exists on the battle map and not on all maps, only certain chapters. And that is the bazaar. The bazaar is filled with more rare type of items and recruits, not or rarely found in this shop here, so also be sure to check it out. And that will be... I think that would be all for the shop menu. Next up on the list is the tech tree. Yes, because this game also has a tech tree at our disposal. Here you can further influence your squads and your builds, or supplement your builds and squads, and picking various tech options. Some used, as you can see here, for specific types of units, buffing their specific class skills, like here the magic resistance. Some give HP, flat value. Some help us level faster. Some enable us to, for example, unlock classes. Some enable us to supplement the ability of those classes more. And at the top we have the ultimate techs, which unlock only after filling the whole tree in one of the 3 trees. So, yeah. Also a very interesting take on it, if you ask me. The problem is the points. At first you will find that the points are scarce, and you will basically have to think quite hard, especially on higher difficulties, which you want to... Well, maybe not, maybe that hard, because the higher difficulties are not that much of a challenge, but I'll talk about that later. Basically, at the start, you may want to think about what you buy and where to head out, but as you can see in the later parts of the game, there are enough points to fill out the whole tree, and I think that's a good thing. But the bad thing is, and this is a but, because I don't remember clearly if the game says, I think it doesn't. So, the tech points themselves, I don't think the game actually tells us when to get them, and what influences the amount of points you get. So, yeah, that's a minor con from me. And the tech points themselves are acquired after getting an additional rank of influence here. And this happens by seizing towns and points of interest on the strategic map and gaining faction reputation. This bar fills when you get certain amount of faction reputation. So be sure to keep in mind that and try to, if you are able, seize points of interest on the map. Because I don't think any mission, or very rarely, and the point of the mission is to actually have an objective of the mission is to seize anything on the map. You can go through the whole map not seizing anything. Defeat the enemy, do the objective, and you're done. So I don't think the game highlights that, and if it does, I don't think it did that in a important matter, because I forgot about that later in the game, and just empirically found out what influences the tech point count. So, yeah. As for the degree of techs, I think it's well planned. There is a lot of interesting ones. There is a good degree of techs ranging from a basic plus X towards Y, and ending on unlocking additional mechanics or classes. Yeah, definitely a plus for the tech tree from me, for the amount of options it gives. But like I said, a minor minus not being clear on how, or maybe not pointing out how important it is on how to get additional points. Yeah. So, last but not least is the arena menu. Yeah. We have an arena here, which requires various tokens. Various levels of the arena require different tokens, and the arena enables us to do some outside of story skirmish battles, and using the tokens that we acquire as drops or as placed in treasure chests. Sometimes they're available in shop or the bazaar. You have different ways of acquiring them, which is also a plus, and various levels of the arena have different battle maps and different, I think, unit squad compositions. We have the bronze, silver, gold and platinum level arenas that each require a corresponding token, like I said. And, well, that's good. I like the arena system in itself. I like that it enables us to get some additional XP. After the battle, we'll also get rewards consisting of additional items of various degree of rarity. You can get rare ones, common ones, uncommon ones, even epic grade drops from the arena, which is good. You can get proof of merits, which is also great. But one thing, and that's a very minor thing that I have against the arena, is that I expected the gold and especially the platinum level to be really challenging. The gold to be challenging and the platinum level to actually force us into taking more strategic approach, maybe even having specific squad compositions to counter other squads, having a specific trait or artifact composition to, for example, counter monsters like dragons in the squad. And sadly, that's not it. That's not it. I can roll through various tiers of the arena with the same squads. Heck, later in the game I could even use, 2 free squads to steamroll the arena, and that's... I don't think that's very good. I think that the idea was a great one, but the late tier composition of the arena needs a bit more thinking on. I think it should challenge you, especially the late one, the platinum one, the highest tier, should challenge you to make use of every mechanic that you got to know in the game and really test your strategic mind and your party composition. So I think there is much more room to improve here, but as a whole, this is a very welcomed addition and a very good one at that. So yeah, and this will also conclude the management subsection of the gameplay. And now we can go to the next part. And the next part of the gameplay section is the battle section. And I actually think I'll dive inside the arena to show you that. I won't, even if this is a previous save, I won't show you the story battle because I think that spoils stuff. So, as you can see, the battle map itself is grid-based. We have full control over which squads we can place. Some story missions require a specific squad, or maybe two, but that's not all of them. So, we can place the squad in various squares here. We can freely choose inside of the squad limit which squads we want to deploy. Let's go like this, just to show you a couple of things. And yeah. Okay, and when you've fully deployed, you can check the mission information, which consists of victory conditions, defeat conditions, turns. Those are not turns that you have to do the mission in. Don't get that wrong. It's not clearly set here, but those are the turns in which if you do the battle in this turn limit, you get an additional bonuses and a higher rank after completing the battle. So you can go well beyond this. And I do, in my Let's Play, go well beyond this limit in a few missions. This does not end the battle. This only has an influence on your score at the end. So if you're ready, you know the mission info, you can begin the mission. So, when it's the battle is divided into phases. First we get our phase, then the enemy gets their phase. As I said, the map is divided into grids. In the upper left corner you can see the coordinates, the type of terrain you are hovering on above, and which turn is it. You have, while being in your phase, you have full control over which squad you want to move first. There is no speed stat that influences that. There is no turn order that influences that. You are free to choose who and where goes first, which I think is a good thing. Definitely a good thing from a strategic point of view. But keep in mind that this also goes for enemies. There is no set turn order. There is no this unit is the fastest one, so I will plan accordingly because he'll move first. No. The AI can also move which unit it likes. And if you body block one unit, doesn't mean that that unit will have to move first. An archer can move first and shoot you. And then that unit that you body blocked can finish you. And I think that's a good thing, because it actually makes you think more about the battle itself, about your positioning, and about which units you use to block whom or to attack whom. So you have to take into account that, and that's a plus from me. As for the battle itself, maybe I'll show you. I think that's a good idea to show you. We'll move forward, like that, without any clear goal in mind. I don't think I will do the full battle. So when you move all of your guys, you can end the turn. And then there's the enemy phase, and the enemy also moves their guys. As you can see, it's quite swift. Shame that you can't just skip the animations, etc. Just go skip, move, done. So as you can see, if a unit attacks another unit, there's a change of view and you get inside of the battle type of view, which is also very nice and is also very similar to the Fire Emblem series. Okay, we'll wait for the enemies to do their move. And that's basically the battle flow. First you move, then the enemy moves, you can attack, the attacking party attacks first, the other party defends, and then there is a change. The defending party attacks, the attacking party defends, etc. So yeah, that's kind of how it works, that's kind of how the gameplay loop works. Also, like I said at the beginning, you can choose orders. And the orders have a degree on how your units will attack, because you can't control your units inside of the battle, and you can't assign specific targets to them, or if they have more than one attack. And there are classes and units that have more than one attack. For example, one character has both a sword and a bow on them, and okay, that one you can choose, because attacking from a distance, it will use the character will use the bow, and attacking in melee will make him use the sword. But one character can use magic attacks, and can use physical attacks, and you can't control which he uses or which unit he attacks. He just goes round robin. First he does one attack, then he uses another type of attack when in battle, but who they will target is kind of random. But you can kind of force it through those orders here. For example, you have target leader, which gives us bonuses to our stats like hit rate and cons, and to our evasion, but it also enables us to target the leader specifically, or anyone blocking the leader. We have aggressive, which increases the damage we deal, but also increases the damage we take, and makes us target more likely the weaker and low HP enemies. We have cautious, that's very great for tanking, and it spreads damage as much as possible, etc, etc. So it kind of works like this. You pick the order, you pick the target, and like I said, you transition into the battle view. And the order is attacker attacks, defender defense, then defender attacks, attacker defense, etc. You both get 2 moves, so 2 attacks, 2 defense. There's also a free action, like you saw here, which you can kind of influence with traits and artifacts, and it gives you an additional, if you're lucky enough, chance to attack the enemy again. And not only singular units can attack, if you're lucky you can have basically the whole squad attack again, which is kind of interesting if you ask me. It is kind of interesting. So yeah, that's how the battle looks. In my opinion, it's quite a pleasant system. It can actually make you plan the battle, because sometimes when you have a good class composition and a good artifact and trait composition, you may very well position yourself in a way where you'll be targeted by the enemies and not so much attack them as tank and then defend. And you can get various bonuses to damage while defending. You can stack up high defense units, you can stack up healers to heal them, and you basically have an immortal crushing squad build. Yeah, you can do that. So the system plays well with the amount of customization you can do on your squads. It's quite easy to grasp, as you saw, there's not much mechanics involved there, and, well, quite easy to grasp at the beginning, but if you wanna do some crazy compositions with some nice, like I said, nice ideas, like with the defensive squad, crushing everyone, there's a good degree of mastery to this system, even though it is quite easy from the get-go. So I like it, easy to use, but needs some work to master. Yeah, that's something we like to see. Also, something that I would like to you to remember is that, like I said, you have the grid base and you have information where you're standing, and that also flows into the party and the unit composition, because like I said, there are troops that get bonuses to different stats, or enable them to ambush or something like that, depending on the terrain they are attacking from. And that also plays into when you're attacking them. So you can, for example, be, I can destroy this squad of thieves in one move, and then you move towards them, they're standing on a tile that enables them to ambush you, and bam, you're ambushed and half of your squad is decimated because you forgot that they get an ambush bonus due to terrain. having a favorite terrain type. So I think that's a pretty nice touch and keeps you on your toes. So that's something to remember, and I think that's definitely a plus. But, well, what can I say? At the start I said, or in the general overview, that I have two very big minuses, very big cons. And the first one we talked, and unfortunately I think it's time to talk about the second one. I don't think I'll be able to show you now, because it's a system that is not available right at the start of a battle. What I would definitely like to talk about it now. So, as with the previous one, I will mark this section as a minor spoiler, and I will leave a second or two of silence before I get into this section, so you can all get ready. So, some silence. Okay, so the spoiler. You probably saw it when I was doing my turns, but due to in one point in story, you get access to a different menu in the battle map, and that's the powers menu. And as you can see, there's a big it's not a pentagram, because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, actually it is. Pentagram thingy here with various icons. It's hard to miss, because it takes up a lot of the screen. And those are the powers. Yes, we do get access to magical, mystical powers after a certain point. And yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 powers, which you get access to in different moments in the story. And that, you know, it could be cool, but it's not well balanced, to be honest. And it also, I think, negatively impacts that whole strategic prowess that I have been praising as a good point of the game and the battle system. Because you have powers like Exemplar and Blessing. And those two powers are enough to trivialize some encounters, most encounters even, aside from a few. And like I said, it's clearly not balanced, because the others, to be honest, the others could be non-existent. The most that I use are the Exemplar power and the Blessing power. The other ones are a nice addition, yeah, but they don't give enough tactical advantage, and they're clearly not as powerful as the Exemplar and the Blessing. Because we have the Meteor, which deals a percentage amount of damage to a squad in a cross shape, but you can't damage squads that are inside forts or castles. And I think that's good that you can't do that, because you can't soften up those important leader units like that one here that's guarding the castle. And that's okay. We have the teleport, that teleports your unit in a certain tile range. While useful, it's not groundbreaking, but it's useful when you wanna, I don't know, jump through a obstacle and your unit doesn't have a large movement radius, or if you wanna get to a treasure chest and you're being blocked by marshes which give you a penalty to your movement or something like that. It's okay. It's not game breaking or anything, it's okay. We have Terror, which inflicts morale damage within quite a large area of effect. It's a 3 times 3 radius, so okay, but this basically could even not be here. It does inflict morale damage. It says it's massive. I don't think it's massive. If you have when you get a good chance to deal morale damage to enemy squads and they're bunched up, and you do this, most of the time their morale doesn't even drop a rank. You need to do some morale damage by yourself by beating other enemy units to even have the Terror do something. But when it does lower the morale to extreme levels, that's a very good thing. that helps you really well, really good in the battles, but yeah, by itself it doesn't do that much. And now we come to the two most game-breaking ones that I said. That's the Exemplar and the Blessing. The Exemplar, you cast that on a friendly squad, and it gives you a 50% damage resistance for a whole one phase. That means one yours and one enemy's. So you can get a beefed up tank squad, place it inside a corridor, narrow corridor, cast Exemplar on it, and not only it gives you a 50% damage resist on top of your tanky damage resist, it also acts as a taunt. So the enemies all will target that squad, and you're safe with other squads. This is really OP. This makes the game... This makes some battles trivial. Trivial, like I said, yeah. And if this wasn't enough, you can combo it with the Blessing, which it says refreshes a friendly squad, but this basically refreshes your turn. It gives you another full turn after doing a turn with the squad. So these two, and the battles are done in your favor. The thing is, you need to charge them up. But as you saw, I did a couple of moves, one turn but only 2 units attacked, and nearly all the Exemplar is charged, or yeah, nearly all, and more than half of the Blessing is charged, and yeah. And it's not one time per battle use, no, it's as many times as you can charge it, you can use it. Yeah, this is a con, this is not very well balanced. This is, you basically need 2 of those powers and well, yeah. So you can handicap yourself and not use them. I actually, at the beginning, when I got the powers, I tended to forget about them, and I did a lot of encounters without using the powers at all, so they're not must use, but if you use them, there clearly are better ones. So, and I thought that playing on a higher difficulty, I played on Warlord, which is the highest, should be a statement to that you must use every tactical advantage you get, but it's not. It's not. And I don't think that's a very well thought out mechanic then. So, yeah, this is a con from me. And that finishes the spoiler section. So, I'll give you 1 or 2 seconds of silence, and we'll get to the next section. The next section, and that is the audio section. So, the audio department, nothing outstanding here. The music is pleasant, as you can hear. I'll give you a little time to hear it now. It is well done. It's, in the battle parts, is kind of upbeat. In the story parts, is solemn and makes you think. It is well picked for the particular scenes. Sad scene, sad music, slower music, etc. It does not take away from the experience. It's very good, but it's nothing to write home about. Nothing. It doesn't clash with anything, but it doesn't have that I remember it for years and years to come. For example, I can still remember quite a few tunes from Final Fantasy Tactics, the first one for PS1, and I played that game a lot, and I played it... The last time I played it was quite a few years ago, so... And I still can remember some tunes, so... yeah. But I think the music is solid. A big plus for me in the audio department are... the voices, as you can hear. I have the volume lowered, but I hope you hear that. Different types of characters have... well, not the generic units. The main ones have their own voices. When you select them, they have voices. When you attack, I think they do voices. Mainly on selection, from what I remember. That's very cool. That is very cool. That's a big plus from me, especially from this small of a studio. And they have some cheeky, funny lines, like Beatrice Barbecue. They are different. You can recognize them from those quotes, from the things they say. You know who says who. I think it's very good. I think it's very cool. Definitely a big plus from me. Definitely. Yeah, excellent touch, I think. And like I said, maybe not the most memorable tunes, but I think it's good. It's good. Yeah, so that will be for the audio section. Next up, we have video, and that is the looks, the graphics, and here it's kinda, well, it can be a gray area, and I'll tell you why. Here, the battle phase, the strategic phase, top-down view, very basic. You can see different squad leaders. You can recognize what type of a unit this is. It's clearly distinguishable. Maybe besides maybe two classes like this one, it can be a champion, it can be a spy-hander. You won't know because the sprite is basically nearly the same. When in battle, the battle graphics are very good, very good. You can clearly see the strikes, you can clearly see the change in stance when the unit rides, attacks, jumps into battle. It's very good, very good. With it, I think it was a nice amount of work. You can distinguish one unit from another, you can distinguish one class from another, or apart from few minor ones, like I said. The units look very good in combat. Yeah. I think the battle graphics are very good. Very, very good. But if you, like me first, see the product while browsing the Steam store, and you look at those screenshots, something seems a bit off, doesn't it? And I kinda laughed at first when I saw that, because the story parts look like something from an RPG maker. Yeah, the game has that chibi, strange, plastic-looking like colorful characters that are present in the story parts, and it can discourage some people. I had a talk with some people, I think it was either with my brother or with a friend, that said, well, the game sounds kinda cool from what you described, but it kinda looks ridiculous. It looks like something from an RPG maker. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't look like that all the time. It's only the story parts. And they were like, whoa, okay. And see, they thought that it was an RPG maker game. And I'm guilty of that too. I also thought this was an RPG maker game right at the bat, and that it will look very generic and very bad. And while the story parts look very generic and not very good, the battle parts make up for it, I think. I think they do. It may not be to everyone's taste, and I can understand that, but I don't think it's that bad. I think they had limited resources at their disposal. This is not a very big studio, AAA studio, no, it's not. And what they had, they did quite well. The attack animations, battle animations, very smooth, very great. Not once a spell effect or a battle effect make me go cringe or like, what the heck is that? And I had that in other games. With similar, or maybe even a little bigger studios making them. So, I think that's actually good. Whereas how you feel about the story part and the graphics there, yeah, it can differ from people to people. My advice is, don't concentrate on how the story parts look. Yeah. Because regardless of how it looks, it feels well made. It feels like work was put into it. Yeah. So, at least the battle parts are great. So I think that this will conclude the video section. So the next section will be the Misc section. And like I said in the overview, the beginning, in this part, we will look at some points of critique and praise that can be found on the internet, be it from magazines or from people, and we'll see if that kinda is similar to what I think about the game and what do other people say about it. So, for those interested, on the day that I was making my notes and getting ready for the review, the Steam page was at 92% positive in the most recent reviews and 95% positive in all reviews. And that is a pretty high grade for a game, especially an indie game, especially a game made from such a small studio. So, going first from articles, sites, and reviewers, from more of a professional point of view, we have the RPG Fan site, gave this game an 86, and I quote, "I was pleasantly surprised with the time I spent playing this strategy RPG. In many ways, it draws from classic heavyweights of the genre, but it also has more than enough substance to stand on its own. There's certainly a lot to uncover and do throughout the playthrough, and it also has moderate replay value, given the ways player choices alters certain narrative events. Symphony of War Nephilim Saga is an adventure fans of tactical RPGs might want to keep an eye on." Sorry about that, I needed to sneeze. So, RPG Fan kinda states the same as I, that it's a nice degree of mechanics that differs from the games that it had that had influence on this game. There is a lot to do inside a playthrough, and there's various ways you can alter some events. So yeah, I agree with that. Next up we have the CD Action magazine, and it gave this game a 85. Also, this is all out of 100. Sorry. And I quote, CD Action, "I fell in love with this highly addictive gem after just a couple of turns. If you don't mind that it was created with RPG Maker and looks like a decades-old relic, if you are able to turn a blind eye to poor enemy AI, and you're willing to give the story time to really get going, you'll probably lose track of time." And well, surprise, it actually is created with RPG Maker. I did not know that. I didn't read that before. I just copied those reviews to basically respond to them without prior knowledge, so you can get an authentic feel to this. Okay, yeah. So this kind of makes it clear why the story parts look like that. Okay, I don't think it looks like a decades-old relic. No, it doesn't. That's something we differ here. And you can check that with decades-old games like some less modern Fire Emblem games. I think the GameCube games would be a decade old now, isn't it? Yeah, sometimes I have trouble thinking about games. When I think a game, when you say a decade old, you know what I think about? I think about Final Fantasy 5 or 4. Those are older than 10 years. So, yeah. Okay. Poor enemy AI. I actually think the same. If you go with my playthrough, there are moments when I abuse the poor enemy AI. I can bait them to concentrate on units while I do what I want on the backlines. I can pick them off willingly to make the battle easier. I know that it's a strategy game, but the enemy AI should kinda take into account more than that stuff. They sometimes even do not attack the target that you feel they should attack, the weaker target that's standing a little way in the back. They have enough movement, they just ram into your strongest units for some reason, and you think from experience, and I think from the game itself, that the threat rating, where is it? The threat rating of the whole squad, not only the one unit, which we can see, for example, the Voix has 27,000, should be taken into account which target the enemy attacks. And it sometimes does, but sometimes doesn't. from experience, and you can see that in my playthrough. For example, we have Devo with 27,000, we have Wymont here with 9,000. The enemy had a lower level threat unit available. It was in distance, it could attack it. What did it do? Smashed itself on Devo on the high threat rating unit. Or on Diana. Multiple times, without me casting Exemplar to taunt them. Don't know why, but it needs in a strategy game, the AI really needs some more work. Yeah. But I do agree, if you give this game a chance, definitely lose track of time. I had so much fun with it. I really did. So next up, it's the PC Gamer magazine. And it gave this game an 81. And I quote, "Novel tactical mechanics make this indie a contender for the best strategy RPG this year." End quote. Do not agree with the novel tactical mechanics. This was done in one game or another. Maybe not in one game all of those mechanics at once, but like I said, both orders, classes, even powers were made before in strategy games. Just need to find those games. And there is no guarantee that one game will have all of those bunched up in one, but this was done. So I don't agree with this being, the whole package being novel. No, it's solid, it definitely is solid, but it's not novel, no. Then we have the lowest from the magazines, from professional reviewers, with Siliconera at 70. And I quote, "Appreciating Symphony of War takes some adjustments to its production values, but our 50 hours with the game were largely a joy. It's built for those who delight in fiddling with systems and tweaking squad builds, and its combination of ideas offers a distinct tactical experience." I don't know why they give it a 70 then, but I agree that it's definitely for those who take delight in theory crafting builds, tweaking those squads, playing with composition, artifacts, traits. Definitely for those type of people. Definitely, because it's you can feel that those mechanics took a lot of time to think through, and they're very well done. For players, which this isn't as important, which take more delight in the story elements, this will not be a game for you. No. This is more for those that like a good story, but are really there for the tactical part of the battle and the tweak and customization, yeah. And that would be the bigger reviewers. So, yeah. And as you can see, those are some quite high marks from the professional reviewers, but I think, in my opinion, it wouldn't be much of a point if I also didn't talk about the other spectrum, the negative spectrum. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, those are quite harder to find, as no professional critics reviewed it at lower than Siliconera. At least I couldn't find one easily available. Maybe you can find one at Google while browsing. I couldn't find one browsing. I went to Metacritic, there you could find those. So, for the negative spectrum, I will adhere to the reviews from Steam itself, and you can check that on the Steam page. Below the whole game page you have the review section from the users. I will leave out those written in languages that I do not know, and because that I could not properly interpret those, even if I could Google Translate. I wouldn't want to leave you guys with something that's kinda translated well, kinda not. Maybe some intricate parts of the review would be missed, and that could give you misleading information, so I will leave out those. If you know some of the languages that are used for reviews, good, you can check those out. I'll only check out those made in English for you. Plus, at least for this review, I will leave out usernames and just call everyone that I quote user number, as I do not know if they want to be named in such a review video. So yeah, we'll do it like this. and you can find them on the Steam page. So, user number 1, and I quote, "Not worth its price. Get it only on a heavy discount." And what do I think about it? Well, depends. Depends on if you're a fan of the genre, depends on what's the starting price in your region, as Steam regional prices can very differ from each other. But I do agree that if you can't try it, and if you don't know if it's for you, but are interested, maybe this is your first type of strategy RPG game, get it on a heavy discount. Quite often we see discounts on Steam, sales, very high sales, so if you wanna, can get it on a heavy discount. That's a good advice. And please remember, you can always return something you bought on Steam as long as you haven't played more than, I think it's 2 hours. Then they'll always take the game back and give your money back. Good thing to remember. Now we have user number 2, and I quote, "Decent combat system and a relatively fresh take on rock paper scissors system of units. Unfortunately, that's where the pros of this title ends. The writing is dry, unimaginative, disconnected and poorly thought out. The character dialogues and interactions are also equally poorly executed, with interactions feeling forced, coming out of the blue, and with lackluster vocabulary. For a Fire Emblem alike, I was expecting a decent, cohesive, and well-executed story, and sadly, the writing for this game misses all the marks." End quote. I definitely agree with user 2, and this was also one of my cons. The writing is not good. He says it's dry and unimaginative. I agree. I didn't want to spoil you the story parts, but there are various story examples of poor writing here. And I don't remember where the studio is from. Maybe it's a I don't know, issue with languages. Maybe the people that made this game are not primarily English focused. Maybe we lost some degree of nuance with translation. I don't know that. I don't remember it simply. But if the studio's native language is English and this is all they could master, I think they should put more time. I know it's a little studio, but they should push more towards the story and the dialogues. And I do agree that the interactions are not very great written. And that's what I said, that people who are less of theory crafting, build crafting, battle focused, only story focused, should not expect much from the game and should wait for a very heavy discount. So yeah, and if you're playing for the combat alone, I think it would be good. Oh, sorry. User 2 also says, if you're playing for combat alone, you'll be happy for long enough time. Though the mechanics can be repetitive and don't feel terribly rewarding for unlocking and recruiting top tier units, except riders, those are fun every time. Overall, this game is a miss for me, but I do see how and why others like it, especially hardcore super tacticians. End quote. Sorry, I had a space between the first part and this part, and maybe I mixed up this review with someone else, but I had it as user 2, the whole thing. So yeah, kinda agree with his cons. As for the combat being repetitive, the mechanics being repetitive, this is well, even in Fire Emblem, at least the earlier ones, we have repetitive mechanics, so that's nothing that's terribly wrong with this type of game, for me at least. Depends on how you feel it, but I agree it's more for the guys that like the tactical approach, like I said. So, now user number 3, and this is a longer one. Sorry, this is a longer one. So, quote, "There are a lot of things to like about this game. The gameplay, the mechanics are all fun and even fantastic. I enjoyed building squads and experimenting with artifacts. I thought there was a great variety of units and unit types that allow for a great experience with a lot of customization. The rest of the game was not great. Putting aside the RPG Maker story segments, which were visually mediocre, or off-putting, the story dropped the ball on what would otherwise be a solid game. The plot is strange and almost nonsensical. Events happen and more or less follow from one another, but there's not really any consistency beyond that. The game waffles on taking any kind of moral stance. Eugenics, breeding programs, extrajudicially executing surrendered POVs, total war in the actual definition. These are all things uncritically accepted by the good guys. Yet killing enemy conscripts on the battlefield is a sign that the MC has lost her mind and has gone too far. And of course the villains are ontologically evil because they kidnap children, brainwash children, indoctrinate children, use children as hostages. Together with how often the bad guys target children and how often breeding offspring and having kids comes up on the MC side, it really does feel like the whole game has some kind of a hang-up about having children. It was pretty uncomfortable. I would be remiss not to mention the support conversation and dialogue in general, which is incredibly bad. Like, one romance occurs because the dashing rogue character kept hitting on a girl despite her rebuffing him 2 or 3 times before. She just says, "Oh, you outlasted me, congrats on getting a date." There's insilly conversations, a "nobody like me when I was a nice guy" rant, and God, I honestly can't describe it all and would recommend just skipping all the dialogue, and if you can if you decide to go for the gameplay, just wow. End quote. This is a longer one, and well, kinda baffling. Well, I didn't wanna talk about story stuff, but there is killing, there is prisoners of war, there is assassination, there is kidnapping, there is human trafficking. You have a one rogue guild or assassin guild which you fight and they do bad things, I agree. But I don't agree that the game is hung up on having children. No, that's weird. I mean, it comes up from time to time, and I agree that the children in the case of brainwashing, propaganda and kidnapping come up. That is a large part of the game, and if you play the story from beginning to end, you will know why. This actually is not stupidly inserted. This is actually inserted because if you want to build an empire from start with loyal citizens not questioning you, you better start indoctrinating them from a young age. That's what's used in this game. So I do not agree with that user on some points. And because, well, yeah, we differ, and I just don't agree with them. It left them pretty uncomfortable. Well, sorry. I mean, I guess it's not for him. As for these conversations, the same as I said and the same as we said before, not very well written. He even remembered the rogue like I did, because honestly it's hard not to remember that one after reading those. He does that from the beginning of meeting the character. It's one of the first conversations he has with that character. He just goes, "Oh my, what a lovely lady," and she goes, "Beat it, creep," and he does that repeatedly. Just like the user said and just like I said. And yeah. He also talks about the tropes, like "nobody liked me, not as a nice guy," yeah. Okay, we had the intelligent, I don't remember that one, I remember the intelligent guy trope, which I told you about. And yeah, it's filled with that. And honestly, you see different users also remember ones, so it's not only me, that's only my imagination. It's the way this is written. So yeah, unfortunate in an otherwise good game. So that was all with the Misc stuff, and let's head to the next and final section. Review. My review, my marks. So, first off, no, not first off. No, the review section. So we get the good old meat and potatoes. The my review, my score section. I will preface this section saying that I am a big fan of tactical RPG games, and I was so from my first tactical RPG game with, I think it was Final Fantasy Tactics on the PS1. Now, I was quite young there. And this type of a game loop, this type of a mechanic, this type of a setting is certainly something that is to my liking. So, this type of genre. So, if you are new to this, your mileage may vary. Yeah. So, first off, we'll begin, drum roll, with the pros. So, what pros do I feel like this game has? First off, it enables you to choose from a list of difficulties, from easy to hard. That's good. And the second one, you can build and customize squads to your liking. This game enables us to have a lot of build options, a lot of customization options. Definitely for the ones that like to experiment. The next one. There are many things to do. Aside from battles, there's the tech tree, there are the squad managements, there are the arenas, there is the story segments, there are side missions which you get access to in a certain moment in the story. There are the conversations, a lot to do. Then I also think there is an impressive focus on details, such as different voices, different sort of trying to do a different accent, portraits, certain little, inserts, which for such a small company, it's very impressive. They're very impressive. You can tell characters from one another, they sound distinct, they're well made. Next. Maps. Maps are not copy-pasted in the story. They have different layouts, they have different points of interest, and although the tile sets themselves are repeated, because, yeah, you have 30 missions or something like that, of course the tile sets will be repeated. You have a grassland, and you have a grassland in somewhere else. It's gonna look similar. But the whole layout of the mission is not copy-pasted. That's good, that's good. And there's a lot of number of points of interest on a map. And that prompts... oh, sorry, I had a cough. And that prompts tactical decision making. Because do I beeline for the objective, or do I take longer, get a lower mark, maybe some less rewards, but I go to the bazaar and I can pick up something interesting? Or can I even do that? Do I have enough forces? Do I have enough strength to not get beat by the enemy while I go to another place of interest? You have to take that into consideration, and that's great on my part. And I think that's all for the pros. The cons. The writing is not very good, especially in conversations, and especially when it comes to relationships. We had enough of examples of that. Another one is that it would need some work in the balance department. Definitely. And next one, lack of in-depth information in-game about some mechanics used. For example, I'll get back to the tech points. Even if the game, I don't remember that clearly, even if the game says that you get tech points from leveling up the faction, it definitely does not say that the more units you force to surrender, you saw that order for surrender, the more units that you surrender after the battle, the greater the amount of points you get when you advanced up a rank. It somehow just calculates one into another. Don't remember how. So yeah, for more in-depth information, you gotta put some work on your side. Sorry. Next con. Story seemed good at first, but a couple of things made it feel, at least for me, bad. It did, really. I won't go into the details here because I do not want to spoil you. I did read some users told me that they only look to take interest. They've seen a couple of episodes and they want to play themselves, so I will not spoil it. We had that minor story section of spoilers in the story part, but I did not spoil anything. But I can only say that good at first, but after certain part, no, sorry, no. I get why they wrote it like that. I understand why, but I think it was sort of a not very good decision. So, yeah. That's all for the cons. I also have something that I will highlight as a gray area. Because I feel that, depending on that person, it can be either a con or cannot be a con. I don't say it will be a pro, because I don't feel like it can be, but it can be a potential con. And that is the first thing. Sorry, I need to cough. The first thing is, sorry about that, the graphics. And the graphics may not be for everyone. Not everyone likes this type of graphics. Like we got to know, those are made with RPG Maker. I understand that. It's not for everyone. Everyone has their different tastes. So this is a gray area thing. And the balance, the difficulty balance and the balance itself. We played blind. I didn't know anything about the game. We played blind. We started at the highest difficulty setting available to us. We rolled through the game. We really did. I think, if I remember correctly, there were two, maybe three maps that had a higher grade of difficulty. We did finish them on first try, don't get me wrong, but there are, I think, 2 achievements tied to doing something more than the story makes you do in those 2 maps, 2 or 3 maps. 2. And we didn't do them because I didn't know that it was even an option to do those in that way. But if you want to do those, then there is a higher degree of difficulty. But then when it comes to what you have to do, to that balance in the story part or in the arena part, like I said, for me, it's lacking. When I pick the highest degree available, and when I do the highest content level available, like the Platinum Arena, I expect at least one of those 2, and ideally the combination of those 2, to make me use every mechanic, everything that I learned, make me do a certain composition, make me try really hard to win. And it does not. Unfortunately, it does not. For some, and I think it's even for me, that is a con. But I placed it in a gray area because I know that there are people that don't like when a game is too hard, or they prefer not to spend an hour or multiple hours either grinding or crafting some composition that magically will let them win something. They just want to sit, have a nice time, read the story or feel the gameplay, the battling, and be done. And I think that's great. That's nothing bad. There are different types of players and there are different tastes. So I will leave that in the gray area. And to sum it up, overall, I had a great amount of fun with this game. I really did. The cons here are not detrimental. Definitely, there's things that need work. They are. And you can't leave a blind eye on them. No, definitely you can turn your head around and say, I don't see that. No, and they definitely leave a mark on the final score of this game. I feel that this is a great take on the strategy RPG genre, and with the amount of resources available to the devs, we can see that at the end, at the credits. I think they did a very solid, I think they even did a great job, if this is their first game and with this amount of resources. I really do. And I hope that this will provide an excellent starting point for the devs and their studio's future endeavors. I think so. I think that the basics of this genre I've pretty much covered here. And even better, they give you so much options. So much to do. I think it's great. It's just that there's a little more amount of polish. A little more amount of polish here and there, and maybe just add some, more fireworks, more pizzazz to the game, get it more, you know, appealing to people, you know, and if you add that and expand on the solid base that you have, which is this game, you would have a really great entry, a really great other entry in the genre. I really think you'd do if you add that. So if you catch this game on a discount, and I'm not discouraged by the RPG Maker looks and by the cringy dialogues, I suggest to give this one a try, especially if you're a fan of this genre. As for my score, taking all this into consideration, what I said, and taking into consideration me being a fan of strategic games and loving to put a great deal of time into composition, squad building, etc., I really think that this game is a 8 out of 10. Yes, simply 8 out of 10. I had a lot of good time. I sank so many hours into this one, and I would play it again, especially since the DLC is out, and from what I've read on the Steam page, it adds some more classes into it, and I am definitely interested in that. So yeah, for me this is an 8 out of 10. Yeah, I think we said all here. And I thank you all for listening. I thank you for your time and for this review video. I hope you will be with me again in another one. And please, if you have something you would like to say, something you'd like me to change or to show you in a different manner, or a better manner, please write in the comment section below. Also, please write what you feel about the game, what do you think about it, if you finished it. And the only thing that I would like you to refrain from is the spoilers for other users. If you would like to talk about the sections I marked as spoilers or something like that, you can, but please mark that in the comments with a big spoiler sign to have some viewers that don't like to view them and to show it to them, and then they can skip that comment. I would be very grateful for that. So, thank you all for watching, thank you for listening and for your time, and bye bye. Cześć.